Good Wednesday morning. Welcome to the early game. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. I am here in Atlanta in my normal spot here in the calm before the storm of SEC Media Days, where it's significantly quieter around here at 6 a.m. every single morning, but just in a few short hours, the place will be filled again, as it is, again, day 3 of SEC Media Days. Alabama, Mississippi State, Florida, and Oklahoma speaking today. And, guys, yeah, we're 2 days into it, and I think I've crowned my cliche champion so far, at least the one who is in the running for a cliche champion of SEC Media Days. That would be Josh Heupel. He put on a clinic yesterday in terms of saying a lot of words that gave you absolutely nothing, enough to make Derek Jeter blush. It was a really impressive performance yesterday. I know he was hinting at the idea of an open performance. So anytime open competition. So anytime coaches start getting into the ideas of open competition, one snap at a time, earn your spot, rent is due. I'm sure he was going pretty strong on that. Oh, he was. Yeah. I mean, he. For a lot of questions, it was one of those. He has seemingly mastered that art of being asked a question and kind of, I don't want to say dancing around it, but he just doesn't really address it in full. Because there were a couple questions where I was like, oh, I'm really curious to hear this, and then getting absolutely nothing from it. And credit to him too. Yesterday, he immediately in his opening statement, he goes, "I know you're going to ask me about the quarterback situation. I know you're going to ask me what happened this spring. We're only worried about the guys in this locker room." And then, of course, when asked about it, because he knew he was still going to be asked about it, whether he addressed it in the opening statement or not, danced around it pretty impressively. Like, he's figured that part out. I thought I read something along the lines of, we only worry about the guys who are with us, not the guys who are not with us, or something along those lines, or the guys in these walls, the guys in this boat, something like that, right? Oh, yeah. Only worry about the guys that are here, not worry about the guys that are not here. He's mastered that pretty well. Trying to think, yesterday, I didn't get to catch much of Sark, but there was definitely a flock of people. I'm sure you've probably seen it on Twitter by now, but there is a flock of people that were around Arch Manning. He had the biggest following yesterday, and it was one of those where I was like, I'm not going down there. I can watch that from up here and notice exactly how much attention that man's getting. Well, as we noted in the group text yesterday, Arch Manning had the frat boy look, down pat, perfect execution of being part of Xi Theta Phi or whatever frat that was. He definitely nailed that, and he played it perfectly. He did. Did you see the thing yesterday too, where he talked about getting group text with the other Archie Manning grandkids, and Archie does the thing where he'll sign his name off at the end of it after each text, and I'm like, man. Even if you're a former NFL or in an NFL royalty family, or you're somebody like me and my family, we all have the grandparents or parents that will sign off their name at the end of the text despite having your contact. Yeah, I love you, Mama Thorne. But this is definitely one of her unforced errors for sure. Dad does the same thing. It's the funniest thing. And sometimes you get those moments where you see people talk about that are very famous, and you realize maybe they're a little more like us than we previously anticipated. But fun show playing today. In the first hour, we got Old Man versus Analytics, and I've got a Kalen DeBoer stat that you are absolutely going to want to hear. So very excited to drop that as well. But we'll go ahead and revisit some of Shane Beamer from Monday. Obviously, they spoke early, so we're talking a lot about what they talked about throughout the week. And we talked special teams yesterday. We'll talk a little bit about that more today, because at 6:45, we're mixing it up a little bit. We have 50-yarder for your life, not just first down for your life. So we're raising the stakes here a little bit on today's show. So very excited about that. But there was one clip that we didn't get to yesterday. Of course, throughout the show, we're not going to get to all of the sound that we want to get to. Wait. Let me stop you right there. Yes. I know y'all are working hard. I know y'all are there. But Tyler, MVP, obviously, because these clips,
the amount of sound that we have to choose from, we could do shows for weeks from the amount of clips that Tyler has cut from SEC Media Days.
Oh.
Yeah. And it easily could go further. So, yeah, Tyler is definitely doing this thing down there.
Like that's all he'll need to do. That's all he would need to do. It's really impressive. The amount of work he's put in to all the sound. I mean, we got 40 plus clips. I don't have the sheet in front of me right now, but we have like 40 plus clips from yesterday and 40 plus from day one. I mean, we can use this for forever.
I believe yes, 46 clips from today for sure.
Good Lord. Yeah, Tyler's on a generational tear right here here at SEC Media Days. It is amazingly impressive. But we'll go back into the time machine way back to yesterday's cut list, because one thing I want to talk about that I thought was really interesting, and out of all of the coaching pressers that I've sat through, not a lot of coaches are getting bragged on about their retention rate. And Shane got a lot of attention because of how much he's been able to retain on his roster. Really, they didn't lose a lot in the transfer portal at all. They retained a good amount of the talent they have, and that's what happens when you win 9 games and you put yourself on the cusp of a college football playoff appearance, and teams see what you have, or players on the roster see what you have coming back too, and understand that there's a big opportunity this year to make a little bit of history. So cut 10 from yesterday's list, Jen. Here was Shane's response to the question of why he's able to do such a good job in an era of constant player movement of keeping his roster together.
You want to make sure that you're bringing the right people into your program, and it's harder than ever to do that. The amount of time that we as coaches are all out on the road recruiting, it's limited, and particularly for a transfer portal guy goes in the portal, and we may recruit a guy in high school for 3 years. Guy goes in the transfer portal, you got about 6 hours to get him scheduled and get him on an official visit because other people are. So doing as much research as you can on guys, and then probably in a lot of ways, and I'm talking portal specifically now, when a guy comes in on a visit, I've never coached in the NFL, but I think it's very much probably like a free agent visit in the NFL where you're trying to find out as much about this guy while he's on your campus. It's recruiting, don't get me wrong, but it's making sure that he's a fit for you, and you're a fit for him, without a doubt. There's no question about it. I think it goes back, guys have to choose to come to South Carolina or whatever school for the right reasons. And there's a money aspect involved now that hasn't been there before. I get that. But if that is the only reason, they're probably going to be in the portal or looking to go in the portal every single year. And we've got a lot of guys at Carolina. Our retention rate is strong. I appreciate you saying that. And we've got a lot of guys that came to South Carolina for the right reasons, because of the culture, because of the people that we have here. But it's hard. We've not done great on some guys as well that we've brought in that didn't work out. But I think if you just rely on bringing the right people into your program, being willing to walk away from guys that don't fit, and I rely on our players a lot too, that we've had guys on our team that have come to me after we've brought somebody in on a visit and have said, coach, like, he ain't gonna fit what we're about. And we've walked away, from guys, being willing to do that, because now more than ever in college football, I think culture is more important than it's ever been. And you screw that up, it can torpedo your entire team pretty quickly.
And he's right. You're not going to bat 1,000 on this, right? You're going to bring some guys in that will eventually choose to leave for opportunity, especially if it doesn't pan out on the playing field. And sometimes you might get guys that come in that maybe aren't necessarily the best buzz term alert culture fits. But it sounds like, from what Shane says, and then the proof is in the retention rate itself, that they do a really good job of filtering out those who aren't good fits. And it seems like the players that are here right now have bought into the point where they not only understand what is trying to be built, but have a really good BS detector on players that are prospective players and guys that might not be good fits themselves. And that filtration process is seeming to work pretty well.
Yeah, well, you want to make sure that you bring guys in who are rowing and going in the same direction as the team, and they're not just simply coming because they want to further their own selves. You want to be able to help them reach their goals, yes, obviously, but they want to be integrated into the team. Coach Holtz used to have this phrase he used to say, they will become us, we won't become them. And he was always kind of talking about recruits coming in, et cetera, et cetera. And that's sort of the mantra, like, hey, you need to make sure you understand that you are coming to join what we have going on. And yes, we'd love to have you, but if you don't want to get on the same path, then we don't need you, and we can find other people who can fulfill those same roles. And like Shane said, sometimes you might have to be willing to walk away from certain people who it just doesn't work. And that's part of the whole modern idea of building a roster.
Yeah, and I think what happened last year, too, is they, as a program, I feel like really started to identify who those type of players are when we're just talking about like transfers, right? This is not even including just high school prospects, but guys like Demetrius Knight coming in and immediately fitting in, right? That's a guy who had played 3-4 years of college football at multiple schools, but he came here and he immediately knew what it was about. Kyle Kennard, same thing. And in their 1 year, they maximized their opportunity, and specifically when it comes to Demetrius Knight, vocally a leader in that locker room, one of the best leaders in that locker room. If you ask anybody on that team last year, anybody that's in the program right now, like what they're going to be missing with him in terms of leadership and in terms of just veteran experience is invaluable. And really, to be able to come in and identify a couple of those guys that fit in right away, I think really is one of the reasons that you saw them overachieve expectation outside the building last season.
Yeah, and also Demetrius Knight was a all-pro member of Check His Birth Certificate squad.
He was, yeah, really good at that. And he's maybe one of those guys, too, that if he wasn't as old as he was, they say he was like 2 years younger, I don't think he's getting drafted in the second round of the NFL draft. He might have been a first-rounder.
Yeah,
I think he was that type of player.
That's very true. Very, very true.
Which is back to, like, my biggest pet peeve in pro sports drafts is just the devaluation of older guys who can help you out right now. That I can go on about that all day. But it's not just players you have to worry about retaining. Sometimes when you have years like you did last year, you're going to lose coaches. Like Dow Loggins, for instance, right? You saw what the offense did the last 6 weeks of the year. He gets a really good opportunity to be the head coach at Appalachian State. Hard to really turn that down. But when you have some coaches in the program that have been there for a while too, you get some continuity. And Clayton White is a big part of that continuity. Cut 13 from yesterday. Jen will play this really quick. He was asked about Clayton White and his ability as a defensive coordinator and how this continuity helps.
Defensively, it's year 5 with Clayton White as our defensive coordinator. He's done a remarkable job in the 4 seasons leading our defense. It's great to have him back and our entire defensive staff back around him as well. We've got to continue to be opportunistic as a defense. We've led the SEC in takeaways since 2021, and we've got to continue to be that group. We played great defense last season, but we've lost a lot of production, particularly right up the middle of our defense at defensive tackle, linebacker, and safety. But the group that we return is very athletic and really excited about the potential of the next group of guys to make their impact on our defense.
So, yeah, I mean, a guy like Clayton White being here for as long as he has and helping implement that defense certainly has its advantages as well.
Well, we can have a whole long discussion about where Clayton White's been, because in year 5, he's one of the most celebrated and cemented defensive coordinators in the SEC and maybe in the nation. But we can go back to year 3 where it was a little shaky. It was a little shaky. So he had a great year last year, and now all of a sudden he's back on top and he's made some adjustments. It doesn't hurt having a bunch of NFL dudes that can execute your scheme. But yes, I do feel more comforted having Clayton, a guy who's been around and feels like he's growing into his role as a prominent defensive coordinator in the SEC.
We'll continue this discussion and about something that the Beamer family takes great pride in, special teams. And this might be the best test that they have in that regard. We'll discuss why next on the early game.
Pressing for our friends at Integrated Media with telling you to get ready. 46 days to kick off. You still have time to get your outdoor setup ready. You want to be in spot, prepared for the first game of the season. How could you prepare? You can get Samsung Series TVs that are waterproof. You can get Sonos outdoor speakers for TV and music, Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors. Or you can control all your devices from just one remote. So from home theater setup to adjusting your thermostat or monitoring your security systems from your cell phone, Integrated Media is the company that you need to call. So call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. That's 803-948-8327. Or you can reach them online at integratedmediainc.com. That's online at integratedmediainc.com.
Our coverage here live from Atlanta at SEC Media Days brought to you by Lawyer Lisa. Need to talk estate planning, elder law, elder care, or probate? Call Lawyer Lisa, 803-563-5163. Or just go to lawyerlisa.com. We'll go ahead and get to our phone lines early because Joe is up and Joe is ready to roll. Joe, good morning, brother. Welcome to the early game.
Hey, man. Top of the morning, fellas. So, I was sitting there listening to you guys talk about Kyle Kennard and McKnight. Isn't it ironic? Those are the two top names that we picked up in the offseason last year out of the portal. One of them ended up making the biggest defensive play of the year to me against the upstate team. And the other one just so happened to be he won the what do you call the award that he won again?
The Bronco Nagurski.
He won that award. Very ironic, fellas. So if I'm a guy who's coming in, who's in the portal, and I'm looking at the University of South Carolina, those are two key things that I would be like, man, look at those two guys, how they excelled at this team at the University of South Carolina. Now, you also want to look at the fact that three of the guys that went into the NFL draft, this coming draft, were 3 stars coming out of high school. They ended up being the top 350 players. I think that's how they articulated it on the SEC network a few days ago. So if you're looking at USC and you're trying to become a player that wants to go to the NFL, if you don't look at that and see something special that's going on at the University of South Carolina, then obviously your name is Stevie Wonder, or you can't hear it. Bottom line. Okay?
Right.
So I just wanted to point those things out to you guys, man, because I like what USC Shane Beamer has going on. It's great, man. Every day that I wake up, I want to hear what's going on, especially with the SEC media days going on. But anywho, great, man. It's great to just see how we're being looked at, because a lot of people speak of us highly at SEC media days. I've just listened to it. So,
yeah.
Anywho, you guys have a great day, man. Have a great day.
Absolutely.
It's great to be a Game Talk.
Yeah, yes, it is. And that makes a really good point, too, because when you see other guys come into the program, and even in just for a year, even just like in one short year, Kyle Kennard and Demetrius Knight turned themselves into legitimate NFL draft prospects. And, that's something whenever a place is presented to you as an option, and it can be a place that makes your dreams come true of getting to the NFL, that's an obvious selling point. And then when you're winning, and then when you're able to show that, hey, we were on the cusp of the college football playoff, look what these guys did and how they were able to contribute, what it did for them, what it did for us, it makes it seem really mutually beneficial. And then when you add in everything else that recruits talk about all the time, even from coming out of the high school level, in terms of the family atmosphere, then I think it's a very, very intriguing selling point.
Yeah, when you do the plus minus of, and I don't know if I'm sure there's some analytic out there that can figure this out. Maybe we can get you on this at some point. But
yes.
You look at Kyle Kennard, Demetrius Knight, Torricelli Simpkins. These are dudes who came in unheralded. One from an HBCU, one from a group of 5, another from a mid-level ACC team, and essentially became the leaders at their position groups. And then you take that, combine it with the wide receiver who they lost, and everybody was distraught over, who went to another SEC school and essentially didn't amount to much. Yeah, I think Shane and company won the transfer and culture battle last year in the transfer portal.
They certainly did. And if you're a special teams player, I think this year's team would have been an intriguing option because they're having to replace everybody on the special teams units, especially in terms like kicker, punter, kick returner, punt returner, holder, long snapper. There's a lot of change that's had to happen. I think this is the best Beamer ball test yet in terms of Shane and special teams coordinator Joe DeCamillis having to figure out. But you posed a pretty interesting question yesterday, Preston. What is exactly Beamer ball, right? And what is it going to look like year over year with different rosters, and when you don't maybe have the longevity in players? When you hear Beamer ball, what exactly comes to mind for you specifically?
Well, it's this idea that you have to prepare for everything that could possibly happen on special teams. It's not a playoff. A lot of times special teams is essentially I'm waving the white flag. I'll give the ball to you. You take it, and we'll just move on. And you can't do that when you play against Shane Beamer's teams because they're liable to do anything on a punt, field goal, kickoff. It doesn't matter. They always have something, and that is absolutely annoying for any team that's trying to prepare to play them.
The element of surprise, and it keeps you on your toes too. I mean, that's the thing. As an opponent, you can't slack off at all. And the crazy thing is not only are they keeping you on your toes, on the other side, say for something like punt returns, right? If they have a tell, and they can tell that you're about to fake something or try some tomfoolery, they snuff it out really quick. One of my favorite plays from last year, Preston, was when Demetrius Knight almost single-handedly snuffed out the fake punt from Oklahoma and made a play immediately. You see him kind of identify, when you look at that replay, identify the play in real time, and then by the time they fake the punt and they throw the ball out to the perimeter, he's there, and he makes that play. And it's not just, like the fake punts are fun. The fake field goals are fun. The swinging gate formations are fun. The creativity on kickoff returns, a lot of fun. But the fundamental part of letting your players not just know their role in the special teams, but being smart enough in special teams to be able to figure out what other teams are doing in that element of the game, I think is what really separates Shane as a special teams coach and teacher, and Joe DeCamillis as well, given all of his experience doing this at the next level.
Yeah, and the idea that your starters want to be involved in special teams. They know that it's a value because, to be honest, Elijah, the old going back to coaching cliches, it's a third of the game. We take it really, really seriously around here. Most teams don't.
No.
It is not necessarily treated as a third of the game. It's something that you do in addition to, only because you have to, we can get through this. And that's not how it's treated around here. And it shows in the effort that they do, in the production that happens. And again, as a coach that would be opposing or getting ready to play a Shane Beamer team, it is absolutely annoying because now you have to waste your valuable practice time getting ready for whatever foolishness they're about to pull off. And it's something that you always have to account for.
And it certainly gives them a little bit of an edge. And we'll revisit this discussion later on in the show, too, because I got so many more thoughts about the special teams, especially when you look at what, even like the coaching staff, too. Pete Lembo's the perfect example of they were so good on special teams that it helped get Pete a job as a head coach at the FBS level. And again, another testament to just the attention to detail on this side of the ball. But Old Man versus Analytics is next. And when I themed it today, I was looking at the teams that are on South Carolina's schedule that's speaking today. And when I got to Alabama, I wanted to figure out something about Kalen DeBoer. And I came across a stat that I'm not sure you're going to believe. I'll tell you what that is next here on the Early Game.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. That's right. They'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out and take care of it for you. Now, if you're at home looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows and mirrors. And Absolute Glass will take care of that for you, too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures, whatever you have, Absolute Glass can take care of it. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
Our coverage of SEC Media Days brought to you by Game Day Men's Health. Game Day Men's Health Columbia offers convenient, expert-backed care for all men looking to feel and perform their best. Call 803-919-7886 to book an appointment. Preston Thorne, do you want to hear, for Old Man versus Analytics, should we lead off with the Kalen DeBoer stat, or should we do that at the end?
Let's hit him now. Let's go. Because I need to know what's going on with Kalen, because I have some hunches, but I feel like these numbers are going to maybe either solidify or disprove what I'm thinking. So let's go with that.
Yes, absolutely. When discovering this, I had the hypothesis, and then I did the research. And when I found it, I felt like I made an interesting discovery here, right? So here's the thing with Kalen DeBoer. Since taking the Washington job, this doesn't count Fresno State, but since taking the Washington job and as a coach at when we now consider the Power 4 level, Kalen DeBoer is 3-8 against the spread when it comes to playing on the road against a conference opponent in games he's favored, right? So in his career, since taking the Washington job and last year at Alabama, 11 games he was a favorite on the road against a conference opponent. Only covered the spread in 3 of those games, but he's also a more damning stat, 6-5 straight up, meaning he has lost 5 of them outright. In some of those games, Preston Thorne, 14.5-point favorite at Arizona State in 2022, lost. 23.5-point favorite at Vanderbilt last year, lost. 13.5-point favorite at Oklahoma last year, lost. In 2022 at Washington also, he was a 27.5-point favorite in a game on the road. They only won by 9, squeaked it out. There was also, in that same season, 18.5-point favorite. No, I think it was the next year, so 23, when they were playing at Arizona State. 18.5-point favorite. They won that game by 3 points. It seems as if when Kalen DeBoer is a favorite as a coach and he goes on the road in conference play, his teams seem to underperform a little bit. So my question to you, Preston, if Alabama is favored coming into Willie B in October, we got to feel great about South Carolina's chances of winning that game.
I like how you swung that around. Well, they probably will be favored just because people like Alabama more than South Carolina. There may not actually be any real reason why they are. So yeah, that does put us in a positive note. Does this indicate that maybe that Kalen's team lack focus, or are they not able to dial in? Do they get caught up in sand trap games? Like what do you think this means?
I think it does. I absolutely think it does, because when you look at how his teams have been when they have to play big time opponents, they perform really well. Even in this example here, right? When they played Southern Cal on the road in 22 as a road favorite. They were only 2.5-point favorites, but they won the game convincingly and impressively, and they looked really good. When they play, I know it's not a road game, but when they played, at home against Oregon in 23, they beat them by 3 points, and they did it again in the Pac-12 championship game as underdogs. And I believe in the game in Vegas at the conference title game, they were like a 6.5, 7.5-point underdog. They end up clawing through and winning that game by a field goal and getting into the college football playoff. I think there might be something to that. And when we look at the Nick Saban era, when Nick Saban was playing on the road in the league against an inferior opponent, very rarely did he ever lose that game. I mean, rarely did he. And a lot of times when they win those games, they'd win them impressively, right? I mean, I remember using Vanderbilt as an example. When Vanderbilt started the year off 3-0, I believe it was 2016 or 17, and one of the Vanderbilt players, said, "We want Bama. You got to come here and play." And Alabama won that game by 50+. And some unknown backup quarterback named Tua Tagovailoa got to play an entire second half before anybody knew who he was. So when you're looking at Alabama as a program and what Nick Saban built, when they go on the road and they're favored to beat you, they took way too much glee in clobbering you and making sure your will to live was broken very early in that game. Last year, they got twice, right? The two biggest losses in terms of how big favorites they were, came against SEC opponents on the road last year. They were 13.5-point favorites against Oklahoma and 23.5 against Vanderbilt. And it dates back to some of his days at Washington, too, meaning there's a little bit of a trend.
Well, this obviously, the Saban statistic is obviously the rat poison, right? The teams don't take the rat poison. They are not here for that. But this is intriguing with Kalen as far as his squads go, because I think Kalen's on the cusp. Obviously, he's a very good coach. I tend to like coaches who have won at several different levels. Him doing that at Fresno, him doing that at Washington. He's done it at several levels, but now he's at the ultimate level. And quite honestly, that's not going to fly for the folks in Tuscaloosa. They are not going to go for just, we had a letdown game against whoever. Even if they probably even consider South Carolina would be a letdown game if they lost to us, when they lose to us. So that's not gonna be a thing that is allowed. So he hasn't dealt with this level of expectation and or pressure to win every single time you step on the field.
It is a different breed of pressure. And look, the Feinbaum show, I guess the day after, or the Monday after that Vanderbilt loss, was maybe one of the best in the history of that show because Alabama fans were so mad. And they don't have a tolerance for that, right? And you can have a really good team. And they had a really good team last year, and they went 9-3. But 9-3 at Alabama is akin to going 5-7 somewhere else. It feels like, because of just what the standard is there, given the history of that program. So keep that in the back of your mind.
And Elijah, yes, they went 9-3, but that's charitable, because you could argue that they should have lost to South Carolina, and you can definitely say that they should have lost to Auburn.
Oh yeah, I mean,
right.
The South Carolina game specifically, because you're at home and they were like 21.5-point favorites, I believe.
Wait. Which one was more ridiculous? The South Carolina game, which you can make it, or 4th and 30 against Auburn?
Oh, yeah, and the last Nick Saban Iron Bowl. Yeah, that one was the 4th and 30 game is probably the most absurd way to lose a game. And I think that game single-handedly is what made, I guess, a lot of people immediately sour on Hugh Freeze. I think people there were willing to give him, a year to kind of get acclimated. Maybe not demanding a college football playoff caliber team in year one of his tenure. But I think when that happened, and then you combine it with what happened last year, that's pretty bad.
Right.
It was a stroke of luck of the other team going brain dead for the last play of the game. Absolutely
can't have that.
Disgusting work. Yes. Disgusting work. One more stat here before we get in, before we end Old Man versus Analytics here, because this is another interesting one too. Because the next week, when Carolina plays Alabama, they'll play Oklahoma, and against John Mateer is one of the shiny toys in the transfer portal, but against Power 4 opponents last year, which were only two, Texas Tech and Washington, he only completed 49% of his passes, averaged 180 yards a game, threw for 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. His passing grades were 46 and 51. Should Sooner fans be add a little more caution to that optimism?
Well, I think that they just have to know what they're getting with John Mateer. And from what I've seen, based on a very limited film, is you are getting the quintessential gunslinger.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe in the
high
bowl.
Risk, high reward.
Yes, he's gonna sling it around. You're just gonna have to take what you get with him. I'd imagine he plays more in the mold of essentially like Diego Pavia. He's another example of the Diego Pavia, where he's going to make a lot of things happen. There's gonna be a lot of ooh plays and a lot of aw plays, and so you have to decide which one you want more.
Coming up next, we'll talk Gamecock kickers, because it's not first down for your life. It's a 50-yarder for your life. We'll make life-changing decisions next on the early game. Coverage of SEC Media Days brought to you by Lexington Discount Homes. Lexington Discount Homes, one of South Carolina's leading retailers of manufactured homes. Go to LexingtonDiscountHomes.com to find out more. And we've been having fun with First Down for Your Life, giving us a chance to really go back in time and kind of remember some dudes on this program.
Favorite game?
Oh, I love to remember some dudes. Great road trip game too. Anytime I'm in a car and I know I've got like an 8-hour drive, and I've got some friends in the car. Anytime we can pull up some like Scott Podzednik references, that's usually what leads things off, and then it just kind of avalanches from there. But an incredibly fun game to play. This is just a different variation of the fun game of remembering some dudes. But today we're doing 50-yarder for your life. So here's the situation. We'll set the scene. You're on the road in a hostile environment. Pick any hostile environment in the SEC. The opposing coach just called a timeout to ice you, and you're kicking from 50 yards to save your hide. Which Gamecock are you picking all time that you are trusting with to bang home this 50-yarder and save you from your impending doom?
Okay, I love this game. I am ready for it, but I have a couple caveats. Are you with me?
Ooh, okay. I love a caveat.
Okay, first and foremost, philosophically, I am anti-icing the kicker. I don't believe in it.
Okay.
I think it's a flawed philosophy. I'm sure there's some numbers that support me, but I just feel like the clock is more of an enemy than your mind. I like the pressure of the time running out as opposed to the kicker getting ready to reset themselves. So that's one. Okay? I just want to make sure that's clear. We might come back and revisit that a little bit later.
We do. There's a philosophical discussion there I'd love to have.
Second, I am an Alex Herrera truther, Mr. Elijah.
Okay.
I am an Alex Herrera truther. Now, here's the issue. Can my offense get me possibly 3 more yards? Because if I can get to 47 yards, Alex Herrera last season was 6 for 6 from 40 to 47 yards. So is there any way I can squeeze out 3 more yards?
Can you get 3 yards in 1 second? Because there's 1 second on the clock.
Oh, boy. Okay. All right. Well,
we did the Nick Saban kick 6 thing. We're like, hey, 1 second.
Okay.
1 second.
I just want to point that out. Alex Herrera, 6 for 6, 40 to 47 yards. Obviously, some of you listening out there are saying, well, what about the big two he missed? Well, the one against LSU was 48 yards, and the one against Alabama was 51 yards. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that. But I am an Alex Herrera truther. I do believe he was one of the best kickers we've ever had here. That being said, I guess he cannot be my selection for 50-yarder for your life. So I'm gonna hold mine, but I want to hear some of the listeners send in theirs.
Absolutely. I feel like we're going to get a lot of Ryan Suckup on this. Because of his career.
I think that's a number. Obviously, you're familiar with him. There's a Gamecock Titans connection where he played with them for a long time. Very famous around here. There was one infamous kick that he did miss. I don't know if that's going to be something that sticks in people's brain.
Yeah, that might. And right now, I don't think it is. We've got, so far on the Firehouse Subs text line, 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in. We've got 2 Ryan Suckups so far. We have John K. says, even though he left us, it's Mitch Jeter all day. But I don't completely disagree with that.
You can't. Okay. I hear you. Yes, Mitch Jeter was 23 or 25 in his career. Yes, he was essentially automatic. But you can't say it without saying that first part of that conversation, Elijah. And what was the first part of that conversation?
Even though he left us.
All I'm saying is, how do you know he's going to be here to make this kick? I'm just saying.
Because I'm asking nicely. Because I'm begging. I'm saying, Mitch, please. I only need one. I just need one kick, please. That's it. You can leave me after this. Once you save my life, you can leave. You can leave. Because that's all that matters. I just need you for this one.
I hear listen, I hear everybody. I hear what you're saying about Mitch Jeter, and I'm not saying he wasn't great while he was here. But Notre Dame did lose a couple games last year, and you know what? He missed field goals in every single one of those games that he lost. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying.
I will say, caveat there, he was hurt. There was an injury there.
I think
that hampered it a little bit.
I think I'm figuring out where you stand on this issue, Elijah.
I'm the Mitch Jeter truther here because once he was healthy and they got into the college football playoff, that dude hit some clutch kicks. I mean, Mitch Jeter won the defense won them the game against Georgia, but really the only points being scored that weren't on special team or on defense was the kickoff return and a couple of big field goals. And then, of course, he banged home the big one against Penn State to get him to a national title game. So there's a clutch factor there with him.
There is a clutch factor. I'm interested to hear what people have to say.
We have so many Elliott Fries right now, too. This is fun.
It's a big one.
It might take me a second to tally all of these, but I'm going to do my best to try to do it. But that's all for hour number one. But we will kick off, pun completely intended, hour number two by revisiting Beamer Ball and how this year might be the brand's biggest test yet. Next on the early game. hour number 2 of the early game live. Day 3 of SEC Media Days here in Atlanta at the College Football Hall of Fame. And we're talking special teams. We're talking kickers. We got 50-yarder for your life, and we have gotten a ton of responses. I am still in the midst of tallying all of it up. Jen, is Ray still on the phone? Wanting to weigh in. Okay, awesome. Ray, thank you so much for joining the early game. We'll go ahead and present you the question. Your life's on the line. There's 1 second on the clock. Your kicker has been iced. The stadium is loud. You get to call upon one former Gamecock to save your life. Whose foot are you putting your life chances in?
Oh, that's a tough one. You know, I'm gonna go with Jeter when he was healthy with us, because as a freshman, and I think it was the first kick he had in his first game or his first field goal attempt, I think he made like a 51-yarder and a 52-yarder back to back. But
yeah.
What I'm calling about is talking about being a kicker. I mean, there's not a more pressure-packed position if you think about it, you know. Mm-hmm. And I go back and I'm thinking about much of what you guys are just talking about. Do you ice the kicker or just let him go? Listen to what Preston said, and it can work for you, work against you. I remember a game in Knoxville, and I believe it might have been Lou Olson, one of his last teams at Preston. I don't know if you're on that team or not. And Tennessee had, you know, they always had good kickers in those days. They had a freshman kicker, and it was like a 51-yarder. So he lines up to kick it, and he kicks the ball, and he misses. He misses, you know, kind of bad, but he missed. That's all that mattered. But Holtz had already called a timeout, so the young guy had time to decompress, and damn if he didn't make it. And I think they won in overtime, or that kick won the game. So that's one way, I guess, you know, it could hurt you or whatever. We saw you on the field. But last year with Herrera, that game against LSU, what's amazing is, you're right, he lined up for that 48-yard field goal. And the ball was snapped, he kicked it. It was just like a smooth golf swing. He hit it so nice. And he had 5 yards to spare, but LSU called a timeout. So he had time to think about it. And this is no lie, guys. A headwind had picked up. It was like the gods did not want us to win that game, guys. A headwind picked up, and he kicked the ball, and he chased it a little bit. I don't even know if he had the distance. And it was like, oh, my goodness, you know. But anyway, so it could, I guess the timeout can make you or break you, you know.
Yeah, it's such a mental game, too. Yeah, and thank you so much for the call, because that's a really good point. That's the thing about the kicking game, and Ray touched on it really well, is so much of it is mental, because how many times are you repping during the week just making kicks, right? You are practicing kicks all the time, and you can be money, you know, in an empty stadium from 55 yards, but when that sucker is packed and the game is on the line and everybody's watching you and the fate of the team is in your foot, right or left foot, it becomes a little different right then too. And that's where I would love to see like actual data to maybe support or not support what icing the kicker does, because there's so many like conflicting schools of thought of, if you ice the kicker but you get that practice kick, that it's good for you. But if you ice the kicker and you get that practice kick and then you miss the next one, it's bad for you, right? Like there's so many different results that happen from this that I don't know if I have a set like ideological belief on icing the kicker, to ice the kicker or not to ice the kicker. Yes.
Yes, because it's dramatically different. Dramatically different between practice, dramatically different between a field goal in the first quarter. Yeah, again, I'm on record making fun of kickers all the times because they're kickers. But I do not envy that job, because there is only one job where everybody's looking at you, and oftentimes your foot is deciding a whole fan base's fate. One of my favorite pictures from maybe, again, we're talking about things that hang in the College Football Hall of Fame. The picture on Twitter last year of the student section when Alex Herrera missed that field goal, and you see all the surrender Cobras, and you just see the anguish on those young, precious Gamecocks and all of us old Gamecocks were like, welcome. We've been waiting on you. But you could just see the light leaving their eyes when he missed that field goal. It's one of my favorites. Yeah, but exactly.
It's a hard one.
Essentially, his job is impossible. It is a very difficult difficult job. So yeah, I definitely hear that. Elijah, I didn't want to do this, but I just wanted to say it wasn't a 50-yard field goal. It was a 49-yard field goal. But my guy Josh Brown may or may not have hit a very important 49-yard field goal against a team that wears orange.
Yes, and so yeah, we had someone allude to that play specifically, kicking to beat Tennessee on our Firehouse Subs text line. That was like one of the reasons, 'cause that was a really clutch kick. Josh Brown was awesome.
How did you experience that one?
Oh man, I probably would have been. What year was that? That was
05.
05. Yes, I had been about 10 years old. And that was the year that Tennessee was top 5 in the AP going into the season. And it was an absolute disaster. The season was already kind of falling apart, and it didn't break me as a kid, but it got me close to that breaking point. I think that year, they ended up losing to like a G5 school that year, and that was the one that broke me.
Understood.
I think that was the one. Yeah, that year I had like national title hopes. Legitimately coming into it, and then they beat UAB by like only 3 points to start that year, and I was like, oh no, this is bad. And 10-year-old Elijah did not have fun that night.
Understood.
I know everybody here absolutely did. 10-year-old Elijah had better days at that point in time. But so yeah, Josh Brown, we have one so far. Now again, I still need to tally up all of these as well, but we're getting a ton of responses coming in, and this year Mason Love might be able to kick his way into this conversation if we have it a couple years down the road, because Mason Love might be having to not just replace Alex Herrera at kicker, he might also be the one replacing Kai Kroger at punter, because they have to replace a lot of people on special teams. Jen, the cut from yesterday, cut 14, about Shane Beamer, he made sure to go out of his way on Monday to mention all that this team has to replace when it comes to special teams.
And then in special teams, this will be my 26th year in coaching coming up, and I don't believe I've ever been a part of a team that has to replace literally every key part of their special teams units like we do this season. We'll have a new punter, we'll have a new place kicker, we'll have a new kickoff guy, we'll have a new holder, we'll have a new snapper, we'll have a new punt returner, and we'll have a new kickoff returner. So we've been very spoiled. Every punt that we've punted, the football at South Carolina, since I've been the head coach, Kai Kroger has punted the ball. So the first time we punt, and hopefully that won't be anytime soon, we'll have a new punter out there as well. But those are guys that are young and talented, and excited to see what we do in year 2 under Joe DeCamillis as our special teams coordinator. We've got to continue to be aggressive and opportunistic there. We've led the SEC in block kicks since 2021.
Preston, I love challenges like this. I love when somebody, especially a coach, has a specialty. And in this instance, Shane Beamer is a special teams guy. His dad was one of the original great special teams coaches. Beamer ball became a thing with Virginia Tech, and it was always something you watched out for when you watched Virginia Tech games back in the heyday of that program. And now with Shane here, he's brought that here as the head coach at South Carolina. And this is really the first year, again, he mentioned first year that he's not having Kai Kroger as the punter. And Kai was a big part of everything that they did, not just punting, but all the tomfoolery that would go on special teams. He was a big part of. Now he's replacing a ton. You get the guy who's the wizard in special teams, and you make him have to almost start back from scratch. That's when you see how great coaches can really be, is when they're given this type of challenge.
Well, if there was a coach and coaching staff who were ready for this challenge, it's this particular squad. So we can, as fans, we can feel maybe a little more confident in knowing that this is their specialty. This is what they do. They take a lot of pride in these specific positions. But game experience is another idea. And yes, you can practice, and yes, you can walk through, and yes, you can have your technique. But that's a lot of moving parts that all have to be working at the same time. The snap, the hold, the kick. Those are highly technical positions that I would just say probably when those players go out there, there will be a little bit of a case of what we like to call the lemon booty. There will be some tight wads when when those first times get called, and any of us in those positions would be a little bit nervous. But hopefully they've repped it enough and they can fall back on their practice. But It'll be pretty nerve-wracking the first couple times they do it.
It really will, but there's a lot of intrigue. I mentioned Mason Love might be pulling double duty for this team, and certainly when they recruited him, he was kind of portrayed as a guy that could do that because he did it in high school really well, and he certainly was doing a lot of punting in spring ball. He was kicking field goals in spring ball, and there's still an open competition there at the kicker position. So that's one level of intrigue. To me, the long snapper is such an underrated part of special teams because I feel like it's one of those things that's much harder than it looks. Like, anybody can snap a ball between their legs. Not many can do it very well, especially from long distance, and then be athletic enough to cover the punt. We're going to talk about like the kicker and punter positions and kick returning and punt returning positions when it comes to being a special teams unit, but not enough is made as to how important the long snapper is and having to replace that position this year. Hunter Rogers did a really good job the last few years, was a really good long snapper. That's a very under-talked about element of rebuilding your special teams.
Well, yeah, ideally the long snapper is the person where we never learn his name because he just always does his job. If you have to know who the long snapper's name is, that probably is not the best thing because nobody takes into account that this guy has to snap the ball 15 yards between his legs, run downfield, and do all of these things. You just expect it to happen, like turning the lights on. It's just supposed to happen. But
yes.
It's not that easy. So, yeah, Hunter Rogers was awesome last year, and whoever's going to take that position this year needs to know that every time they step on the field, it's very important that they get their job done.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And that's the thing, too. We can talk about 50-yarder for your life, and we're talking about 50-yarder for your life because we're assuming the snap gets to the holder and the holder's able to put the ball down, and then we can actually put the game and the fate of our lives in the foot of a kicker. But you take that element out completely if the snap doesn't get there. Like, that's a very underrated part of this as well. And when talking about special teams, too, I think when we think of Beamer ball, I was just writing down yesterday. I wrote down Beamer ball on top of my paper, or on my notepad. And the first thing I wrote down, and I was just going straight from the dome here, just what came to me naturally, creative special teams trick plays. That's my favorite thing about having Shane and his pedigree here at South Carolina, and with what Joe DeCamillis, I mean, when you've been in the NFL for as long as he has, you learn a lot of stuff. You see the game evolve at the highest level. There's some creativity that kind of grows from that as well. I'm hoping to see something this year that we've never seen before. That's my hope.
See, this is where it's really interesting because obviously Pete Lembo being the guy who comes in and really carries that Beamer ball aesthetic forward. That's where all the tomfoolery, the chicanery, all of the cool stuff that was happening on special teams. And as I said, as another team preparing to play these guys, it is maximum annoying because you don't get a break. Normally special teams are supposed to be, hey, I'm waving the white flag, I'm going to give you the ball, you get the ball, and it's good. But you can't do that against South Carolina, and I believe that's one of their advantages, especially early in the season where everybody's trying to figure some things out.
And a lot was talked about with the Citrus Bowl and the fake touchback, right? I mean, when you put up the T sign in the end zone and then catch the ball in the end zone and then toss it back and then return it that way. Like, they had to ask the officiating crew before the game if they can do that. Like, that's the level of detail, right, that they're trying to work within, and the level of detail that's required to be able to get that creative on special teams. And that's really my favorite part about what Joe DeCamillis and Shane Beamer, and then, of course, Pete Lembo before that have done, is bring in that creativity to make every single special teams play, even the more routine ones, completely unpredictable. Just from a viewership standpoint, I think it's fantastic. But Kirby Smart spoke yesterday. They've been pretty good with special teams. They're pretty sound in that regard. But he admitted yesterday that his team is as young as it's ever been. Does this change our perspective of one of the best programs in the SEC? And his take on development, I think, is actually applicable for the Gamecocks and every team in college football. That's next on the early game. That's right. Our coverage here at SEC Media Days brought to you by CHW Cabinetry. This isn't their official tagline, but I'm making it the unofficial one. If it's good enough for Jen Jensen, it's good enough for you. CHW Cabinetry. Put that on a t-shirt. Put that on a t-shirt. Standing by it. It is developing into their future tagline, and development is going to be the theme of this segment right here because, guys, when I went to see Kirby Smart speak yesterday, more so when I see programs like that speak at Media Days, there's fewer questions with them because Georgia's going to be one of the favorites to win the SEC, to win the national championship. They've reached that level of greatness as a program where you can almost bank on them to win at least 10 games every year and then compete for a national title and be one of the 3 best programs in the sport. And sometimes I like to try to get nuggets of information from coaches, not just information that's applicable to previewing the football season, but a glimpse into what makes a program so great and successful and what their approach is. And Kirby Smart gave a golden nugget yesterday. So he alludes to his team being 54% made up of first or second year players. It's a program that's had a ton of experience with NFL talent. And usually guys are stepping in with decent experience as juniors or seniors, and they make the best of that opportunity. But 54%, over half the team, is either a first or a second year player. But somebody asked during that press conference, alluding to that number and asking if there is a way to speed up the development of some of these players. And I think Kirby Smart, his answer was pretty insightful. Cut 2 on today's list, Jen.
Yeah, first of all, you don't speed up development. That's a misnomer. So if you want to speed up development, then you're probably looking for shortcuts that don't exist. You want to develop somebody, it takes time, it takes reps. We can't replicate reps faster. We can't speed up a guy's transition. The transition it takes to become a good football player is different for every kid. And I've been fortunate, for the last 19 years of college football to learn that and learn that it takes what it takes, and it takes time to grow those players. I wish I could speed it up. I really wish I could speed it up this year, but there's no remedy or magic potion or we're going to go get this guy out of the portal or that guy out of the portal. It's all about continuity and what you do with each team. You're seeing that across college football where there's beginning to be a little more parity, I think, and it's probably going to continue to go that way. So who does the best with what they have, which is what I enjoy about the game.
You can't speed up development. He didn't use this word in the midst of that answer to a question, Preston, but he did use a word that is not applied enough in the world of college football, and that's patience.
Yeah, but who has time for that, Elijah? We got to win now. We got to win today. We got to win yesterday. It's
we ain't getting any younger.
Yeah, I mean, listen, man, Kirby hit us with an ultimate coaching cliche that is actually it's like a puzzle inside of a riddle, it takes what it takes. Nobody wants to hear that, but it's actually, it's factually true because what may work for this player may not work for that player. What worked for a little while for this one may not work for this one, and it's never going to be a cookie cutter approach. Nobody wants to hear that, but that is actually factually true. We want to be at a, we need to be at a, I could go on a long tangent about this, about education, but we need everybody to be at a certain benchmark at a certain time. And if they're not there, oh my God, are they falling behind? And it's like, yeah, everybody, a kid that's in kindergarten might be different from a kid that's in first grade, but that kid might be way different when they get to second grade. And everybody develops at different times. And, yeah, like I said, nobody wants to hear that, though, because you need to be winning now and today, and you're forced to build your rosters in a way where you have people that have either are in their later stages of development and or you have guys that are building. You have to have people all along the trail. So, I mean, that is a modern issue that coaches have to deal with.
And it's one of the reasons why I hate describing players, whether they be highly touted 5-star prospects coming out of high school or first or first round picks in the NBA, NFL draft, whatever draft you pick, and labeling them a bust after a year or two. Because even if you get to the pros, there's still development that needs to be done. And especially when you're an 18-year-old kid and you get into school, in a sport like football, you're not physically ready most of the time. Like the Ryan Williamses of the world, incredibly rare. The Herschel Walkers of the world, incredibly rare. Adrian Petersons of the world, incredibly rare. Where in the year one, it immediately happens. And that is less than a fraction of a percent. And if Kirby Smart, the guy who does nothing but hoard all of the blue chip prospects in the country, if he's talking about not being able to speed up development because you just can't and you have to be patient, you have to let them get the reps and let them learn the hard way. If he is saying that from somebody who's getting all the talent in the world from evaluators who are telling them that the kids that he's bringing in are the best in the country right now, that's more than applicable to any school, and that includes South Carolina, where patience is going to be required because you can be really good in high school, but if you don't do the necessary work and get in, put on extra weight, get the reps in, because the game is just so much different, you can't expect instant results all the time or bail out on a player or even a young coach in that respect too, if things don't happen the way you want it that early.
Yeah, everybody's learning at different rates. I think we can just look at a recent example in South Carolina history is Xavier Leggett. Everybody had told us about him. He was physically there. He had some injuries, but it just never seemed to quite work on the field, and people were on the way to saying, like, I don't know about this guy. And then all of a sudden, boom, he bursts on the scene. He has a big play. He has the kickoff return against Texas A&M, and the next year, he's the number one guy, and all of a sudden he's a high draft pick in the NFL. And it was just that development took different levels. You can look at Spencer Rattler. You can look at Lenora Sellers. You can look at all these guys. Development happens at different rates for different players. That doesn't mean you don't coach them hard or you don't have high expectations for them, but you never really know when it's going to click for any specific player.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think another good example is Nick Harbor, too, right?
Absolutely.
Nick Harbor had all the hype in the world. And Nick Harbor, to his credit, is very self-aware, because I remember that press conference on the South Carolina Media Day going into the 23 season. He says, look, this is my first year playing wide receiver. I just hope people are patient with me. And he was aware enough, and the coaching staff was aware enough to be patient with him as well. And towards the end of last year, you saw them get to benefit from the fruits of that labor, because now he's turning into a good receiver. Now he's going into this year as looked at as being maybe the number one receiver on this team and a guy that can really help this football team win football games and elevate the offense. And it all happens with a little bit of patience. I don't know how patient Preston's getting because we still don't have him a favorite NFL team, but we're getting really close. In the tier today, I want to find out how much Preston Thorne values aggressiveness in coaching, because that can get us one step closer to figuring out who his favorite NFL team is. We're going to do that next here on the Early Game. Here at SEC Media Days, live in Atlanta at the College Football Hall of Fame. Brought to you by Lawyer Lisa. Need to talk estate planning, elder law, elder care, or probate? Call Lawyer Lisa at 803-563-5163, or you can just go to lawyerlisa.com. Preston, what is your philosophy personally on coaches that are aggressive in terms of their fourth down decision making?
My philosophy is if you're strictly looking at the paper and relying on the dorks upstairs to tell you whether or not you go for or don't go for it, I don't like it. I would tend to lean, as we're trying to get these tiers off, I kind of like punting the ball. And again, I played for Lou Holtz.
Oh, that's gross.
I kind of like playing.
That's disgusting.
Elijah, I know this is where we're going to have a break in our new budding relationship. Hey, listen, the great Lou Holtz told us, if every possession ends in a kick, you've done well. Whether it's a field goal, an extra point, or a punt, hey, you're doing all right. And so that is probably my oldest, most old school boomer take that I could give you. But yes, I don't mind a good solid punt.
Before we get you to pick a tier here, I will say my lovingness of aggressive fourth down decision making isn't even mathematically based. I don't even know how they come up with, I guess, the percentage that you can do this or do that. My thing is, if you feel good about your offense, I'm more comfortable losing by my offense's failures than my defense. Now, obviously, I don't want my team to go for it, on their own 20 all the time too, right? But if you're near midfield, and if I have a really good running game or a good offense or something that I know I can hang my hat on, like a go-to play, I could live with maybe not, or maybe failing in that way instead. I think it's more of a personal thing as opposed to a mathematical-based decision.
I understand that, and I'm sure we're going to encounter this several times as we go through this season, as our first season together. That being said, there's a slight caveat. I do not enjoy punting the ball to the team in expectation that we can get the ball back, say in an end-of-game situation. Say
I hate that.
Yeah,
yes.
I'm not for that.
There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee.
I agree. So if there's like 5 or 6 minutes left, we know we're down by a score, and we're going to punt the ball to them, and we hope to get it back. No. Let's just go for it on fourth down while we have the offense. So that's my slight caveat. But aside from that,
I like that.
Give me a good punt.
I like that. And that's my biggest pet peeve on punting like late in games. I feel like if you're down by a score, there's zero guarantee that you get that ball back, no matter how many timeouts you have.
Yeah.
So when it comes down to the NFL, we're going to try to find a team that best fits Preston's philosophy on fourth down aggressiveness. So the higher the tier, from a scale of 1 to 8, the more aggressive on fourth down these teams are. And obviously the lower the tier, the more conservative and punt happy they are on fourth down.
Okay, before I pick a tier, are the Detroit Lions the most aggressive fourth down team?
You guessed it, by a pretty decent margin.
That makes me nervous sometimes when I watch them. They're very good. They're fun to watch. Dan Campbell's ultra aggressive. But sometimes it's like, hey, man, just punt the ball. You'll be okay.
That man makes me want to run through a wall. And he makes me want to run through a wall already. But if I was a running back or a quarterback on that team and he goes, all right, man, it's 4th and 5. Nobody else I want out there on that field than you guys to help us get this game. Like, you know what, Coach? I will run through a human being's body right now. Just because you said that.
I'm glad the analytics are matching with my eyes. This is good. But I'm gonna go for a 3 here, Elijah. Okay. I'm gonna go for a 3 here.
Very interesting tier, but I think you're going to like the teams in this. So the teams in Tier 3, which means they are slightly on the lower end of fourth down aggressiveness. The Arizona Cardinals, the Denver Broncos, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Baltimore Ravens.
Ravens pop up once again. So that's the first time I think the Cardinals have popped up. The Seahawks may have been one other time, but
this is my second Cardinals appearance.
Okay, yeah, I don't see nothing happening.
Langston would probably talk you out of that pretty quickly. Pretty quickly.
We haven't talked about this, but I do need to ask him. I will say also that Langston said that they were still getting paper checks when he was playing at Arizona. This was not in the 80s. This was in the 2000s. They were still receiving paper checks. It's like, not a great operation out there.
Is there a player in NFL history that got a worse draw in playing for bad ownership than Langston Moore, considering he got drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals, played for the Cardinals, and the Detroit Lions? I mean, he drew 3 of the shortest of straws you can draw in that department.
Now,
I feel so bad
again,
for him in hindsight.
if you ask Langston, he will still say the paper checks did cash, so they were good. So it's all that matters. But yes, they were still on. While the rest of the league was doing this new fancy thing called direct deposit, they were doing paper checks. That being said, okay, the Ravens. So we had Cardinals, Seahawks, Ravens, and who was the fourth one?
Cardinals, Seahawks, Ravens, and Broncos.
Yeah, Broncos out. I can guarantee that I will not pick the Broncos. Sorry,
That's
Jay.
your only match.
Sorry.
That's your only match for the Broncos.
Yeah, sorry.
It's one out of a lot.
Sorry, Jay. I won't pick the Broncos. Just for my curiosity, where did Falcons Nation fall in this category?
Oh, you want to know how close you were to picking the Falcons?
I do.
Not close.
Okay. All right.
They're tier 8.
Ooh, very aggressive.
They had the 4th highest fourth down going for it percentage. There's probably be a better way to say that, but in terms of aggressiveness on 4th down, 4th highest.
Who else made up tier 8?
So tier 8, Lions number 1, the Browns number 2, and I think that may be more so because they were trailing in a lot of games as opposed to that being Kevin Stefanski's thing. It could be, but this is a theory. And number 3, Jen Jensen's Chicago Bears. The 3rd most aggressive team in football last year, and then Falcons 4. And if you want to know who the least aggressive coaches were last year, Steelers, Texans, Chargers, Vikings. Vikings dead last.
That tracks with Tomlin being a little bit older school, Harbaugh being a little bit more old school. That makes
Ryans, defensive guy.
Defensive guys, again, the defensive guys tend to lean on hey, let's get it back to the defense, punt, field position, et cetera, et cetera. So that all makes sense and that all tracks.
I didn't see what the success rate was, the going for it percentage. The Lions went for it on 4th down 32% of the time. Bears 26.7. It doesn't have whether or not they were successful on 4th down. I wish they did. I really wish they did.
Just by the way, this is in show. This is probably terrible radio, but I have an incoming meme to the group text coming here relating to Jen's Bears. Maybe we can get the reaction on the other side.
Oh man, yeah, this is getting more Bears content than I anticipated, but I like it. Maybe I'm one of the only people on the show. I know Jen's probably jaded from years of Bears fandom. I kind of like the Bears this year a little bit. I kind of do. Yeah, I love the Ben Johnson hire. I think you pair him with Caleb Williams. If anything, you'll at least be more fun to watch. And that's my baseline. If you're going to be bad in the NFL, at least be fun. Yeah, he's here for a long time, not a good time. But we're here for a good time and a long time as well. Coming up next, Preston or Reston, SEC edition from the teams that are speaking today. That's next here on The Game. The Media Days here in Atlanta, brought to you by Game Day Men's Health. Game Day Men's Health Columbia offers convenient, expert-backed care for all men looking to feel and perform their best. Call 803-919-7886 to book an appointment. All right, it's time for Preston or Reston. Preston, are you ready for some SEC football takery?
Let's go. I'm ready.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Now, and I'm using all the teams that are here in Atlanta today speaking. So this will center around Alabama, Mississippi State, Florida, and Oklahoma. And we're going to start off with Alabama. Preston or Reston, Ryan Williams for Alabama is the most dynamic offensive playmaker in the SEC.
Reston, I'm not sure about that. He's good. He was young last year. I'm not sure if you look at the rest of the season, he had obviously that, I forget which team to play, where he catches the ball, spins, and does all that. That was cool.
Georgia.
That was against Georgia early in the season.
Game.
One of the best games I've ever seen. Awesome game. Rest of the season, he was solid. Yet to be proven. I'm a rest on that one.
All right, resting on Ryan Williams. Preston or Reston, it may take time, but Jeff Lebby's offensive philosophy will eventually put Mississippi State back into bowl contention where they belong soon.
Well, I'm resting on the whole statement. I don't know who wrote that. Is that a Mississippi State truther saying where they belong? I'm not sure if you got that off of Dogs.
That's where they.
You got that off.
That's where they want to belong, I would say.
I don't know if you got that off.
I probably should have worded it.
Did you get that off of dogs.com? Yeah, I'm resting on that one. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. You have to be pretty special to have success at Mississippi State. Obviously, Coach Leach having that there. And why am I blanking on Coach's name that's out in UNLV now? That was
Dan Mullen.
And Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen was awesome. So if he can get in that mold and also have special players to go with it, maybe. But yeah, I'm a rest on that one.
If you think about Mississippi State, before last year, I think it was, they made bowl games like 7 or 8 straight years. I mean, they were actually in contention for bowl games for a while and got to where at least making a bowl was the annual expectation. It hasn't always been that way over at Mississippi State too. I think I'm a little bit of a Jeff Lebby truther.
Okay.
I love an offense like that at a school like that because it makes you hard to prepare for. In terms of just like an air, I think that's why the air raid worked so well there. It's just a different change of pace that you can't just address or prepare for Mississippi State the same way you would anybody else. But I think it's going to take a lot of time because it was in such bad shape when he took it over.
Right.
Preston or Reston, after a strong finish to last season, Florida is a dark horse SEC contender.
I like giving coaches who are on the brink. I need to come up with a name for this award because I gave it to Clark Lee a couple of years ago, and last year there was nobody who was seat was hotter nor closer to the edge than our guard Boring Billy down there in Florida. But they pulled it up and they got it going. I don't know if they're necessarily SEC contenders, but I do think the program is heading in the right direction. I'll press in that one.
Yeah, DJ Lagway, at least, if anything, a very exciting player at quarterback. Preston or Reston, because of the move to the SEC, Oklahoma's pretty much a tradition of winning 10 regular season games every single year is over, regardless of who is coaching.
Preston, I'm gonna take that. Yeah, the SEC is a little bit tougher than the conferences that they played in previously, and we still not sure if they got this offense thing figured out.
Yeah, I mean, not last year. What was that, 23 when they went with 10 wins? I mean, Dylan Gabriel had a special season. He genuinely had one of like the better seasons of any quarterbacks in college football, and then obviously that's why he was such a highly touted, or I guess sought after, transfer portal player, and why Oregon spent a pretty good amount of money to get him. So I mean, like that might be an outlier, and they haven't really developed, I guess, a lot of offensive talent. This year is kind of like a make or break year for Venables, and I find them to be intriguing. I find Mateer to be intriguing because of that gunslinger that he appears to be as a quarterback, and they at least have them a running back that's ran for over 1,000 yards, at least in a season in his college career so far. I know last year for Jaden Ott was a little disappointing, but I don't know if I love Oklahoma this year, but I find them intriguing.
Yeah, but is intriguing enough? As a fan, would you be excited about intriguing?
If I'm an Oklahoma fan, no.
Yeah.
Sure. I want guarantees.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with Oklahoma forever, though. They've always gotten guarantees, right? I mean, with the exception of the Coach Blake years, like in the late 90s, Bob Stoops took over, and they seemingly were just winning 10 games every single year. They were constantly they're either winning the Big 12 or they are on the cusp, right? And for years, even like when Lincoln Riley was coaching there too, they were always going to win the Big 12, and the question was whether or not the non-con wins are good enough to get you into 4-team college football playoff with your Heisman-winning quarterback. I have a feeling like those days are over.
I do too.
Yeah. Which, unfortunate for Sooner fans, good for the SEC because it's less competition. 2 hours down, one more to go. We're talking kickers, 50-yarders for your life, and a whole lot more to kick off hour number 3 of the early game. Do you love sales? I love sales. I love getting things at a discount, and Zero Res in the summer comes through clutch, like making a 50-yarder as time expires, because Zero Res only offers this sale once a year here in the summer to take advantage of the summer sale, which is 15% off. That's 15% off carpet, air ducts, area rugs, upholstery, tile and grout, more, all for 15% off. And they do that by using their patented cleaning process from Zero Res that uses 0 harsh chemicals, none, nada, zilch. And it produces a cleaning that's safe for your family and your pets. And trust me, we all want that. So Elijah, how do I get this discount? Well, tell them Elijah Campbell from 107.5 The Game sent you. That's going to help out. And if you want to schedule them online. ZeroResColumbia.com. Zero Res, like zero residue. Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean. Hour number 3 of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell, here live in Atlanta at the College Football Hall of Fame for day 3 of SEC Media Days. Back at the home studios, former Gamecock, Preston Thorne. You know, I don't want to say former Gamecock. Once a Gamecock, always a Gamecock. Gamecock, Preston Thorne, and Jen Jensen, hopeless Bears fan, behind the glass. 2 hours now. We haven't killed each other yet. And we're getting closer to finding Preston's favorite team, and we've had probably the most fun I've had in terms of talking about kickers I think I've ever done in sports talk radio.
I think this is fun because I'm sure a lot of folks have been rolling in with our 50-yarder for the life. I positioned that if I could have a 47-yarder for my life, that I would pick Alex Herrera, but that's not the spirit of the game.
No, not the spirit of the game, because here's, for those who have missed it, we've been taking texts and calls on this, 803-404-6100. The situation, 1 second to go. The opposing team just called a timeout. You're on the road in a raucous environment, so choose any of college football's great venues to put yourself in for this scenario. And you're down by 2. So a field goal wins it here, and it saves your life. Who are you trusting to make this kick? A former Gamecock that you trust to make this kick. And right now, from what I've tallied up so far, 7 of you have chosen Ryan Suckup. 7 of you have chosen Elliott Fry.
Ooh.
We have a big tie with 2 votes: Mitch Jeter, Parker White, Colin Mackey, and Josh Brown. And then receiving 1 vote each, Austin McGinnis, Daniel Weaver.
Shout out to my guy Daniel Weaver, who's in my recruiting class. I don't know if Daniel, if that was you who voted for yourself, but he did hit he did hit a huge kick in the 2001 Outback Bowl. So that might be where that came from. But it was huge, huge kick. Jen, I believe we have some on the live stream.
It did.
Gotcha.
It did. So that gives them 8 votes apiece now. Kevin on the Firehouse Subs text line was the one who voted for Daniel Weaver. He's raising his hand right here, and he's alluding to that exact kick that you're talking about.
It was huge. Huge one.
He says, give me Daniel Weaver. I was in the stands for that second Outback Bowl win. That 42-yard game winner gave me hope for the last 25 years.
Still holding on to hope.
It wasn't a kick for Kevin's life, but it was a kick for Kevin's hope. And if Daniel Weaver was good enough to bang home the kick for Kevin's hope, I think it's good enough for his life.
Now again,
fair.
Elijah, if I can just get this, if I can somehow maybe all right, here's the scenario, Elijah. All the things are true. Ice the kicker, it's 1 second left, but because we run beamer ball, we go on a hard count. We go hut, and we get
trying to get somebody off sides.
They jump off sides, and now it's not a 50-yarder, it's a 45-yarder, and my guy Alex Herrera, perfect from 40 to 47 yards.
So you got Alex Herrera on the sideline, just in case. Someone jumps.
Just in case.
You've got your long school or your long distance kicker, and then you've got the money from 47 and in.
Exactly.
Kicker.
Exactly. That's the strategy we're running right here.
I like it. And look, that might be where having Shane Beamer as your coach is probably the most beneficial to you, because that's something that's absolutely going to be repped. And that's also something that we've been talking about a lot today, too. Given the situation with South Carolina in the special teams room, replacing Alex Herrera, who was the place kicker, replacing Kai Kroger, who has been the only punter for Shane Beamer in his time at South Carolina. Hunter Rogers at long snapper, kick returner, punt returner, holder, everything. You are completely replacing when it comes to special teams. But given the background of Shane Beamer, given the background of Joe DeCamillis, I find this to be an exciting opportunity for those guys, because this is where coaching, pun slightly intended, kicks in.
I like it. It makes sense. Solid pun. That pun was not as good as we're going to kick off the show. I think that was your best pun of the day.
That was the best one. But I fall backwards into these sometimes.
There's still time. Hey, listen. Clayton White's been here for 5 years. Also, Kai Kroger's been here for 5 years. I don't think you can detangle Clayton White's success without looking at Kai Kroger, because the punter is a DC's best friend. Being able to change field positions, put the ball high in the air, not allow returns, safely put the defense in a spot where they can actually play defense and have long fields behind them. I think those two, if you ask Clayton secretly who one of his favorite players was, I'll bet you he would say it was Kai Kroger.
That's where punting really changes the game too, and that's maybe the biggest loss on special teams is Kai Kroger. When you have a guy that was constantly on watch list for the Ray Guy Award and being one of the best punters in America, it can help in terms of just dominating the field position game. Like, look, maybe the most valuable player on Iowa's football team the last 10 years has been their punter, whoever the punter is. And it helped that they had Troy Taylor for a while, who was the best punter in America and was constantly helping them dominate field position. If I ever want to make like a college football themed T-shirt, I would make it an Iowa shirt that says "Punting is offense" because it's essentially theirs, but it's also defense. Like, it helps control the field position battle. And Clayton White, I would agree that he would 100% say Kai Kroger is one of his favorite players because of just how it helps that defense when you can pin an offense back so much. Preston, there's one game I know you played in because we've talked about this before. In all the college football games I've watched, one of the best punters I've ever watched in terms of his impact on a specific game was when Tennessee and South Carolina played, I believe it was 2003, and Dustin Colquitt was the MVP of that game because you guys had Tennessee's offense in jail the entire game. The entire game. Could not move the ball. But Dustin Colquitt was constantly pinning South Carolina inside the 20, the 10, and a couple times, I believe, inside the 5. And that made the biggest difference in the game.
Yeah, and as I've said, unfortunately, our best player in the game, Dante, was back there returning punts, and he dropped the punt that game to cede field position at that point. And as I've stated, there's nothing you can do as a team when the best player on your team messes up. You're just like, I don't think this one's in the cards.
It's not meant to be.
Yeah, it's not in the cards for us today. But yeah, Colquitt would kick the ball, and it was so high. You know, like your neck would be hurting and looking at it would go above the stadium line. And you know, Tennessee is huge. It's like a stadium that goes straight up. But his ball would go almost like above the stadium line, trying to follow it going down. But yeah, he was a tremendous. I don't know whether you consider him an offensive or defensive weapon, but just an asset to the team being able to change the field like that.
Yeah, and a great left-footed punter too. I feel like the number is probably if you had to guess the percentage of punters in college football and the NFL that are right-footed, I feel like it's probably north of 85%. Not a lot of great left-footed punters, but Dustin Colquitt, great left-footed punter.
Just to follow up on your T-shirt idea, I'm looking at some Iowa T-shirts. Yours is still available. They do have punting is winning with the state shape of Iowa. Also, I think my favorite one, clearly AI generated, live, laugh, punt.
Oh, that's something that Kirk Ferentz might have tattooed on his chest, let alone being a T-shirt.
Yeah, so that might be a good one last year. But hey, man, Kai Kroger was an awesome, and I don't think it's underrated, but the tomfoolery that he brought to the table, being able to do all of those things, whether it was running, passing, an actual threat to throw a very solid pass in the passing game is something that they're going to have to account for.
It is, and it makes you wonder if Mason Love, what his arm looks like. I mean, we were talking about his abilities as a kicker and maybe a punter and maybe pulling double duty, and that's going to be something when we talk about special teams throughout the course of the season is going to be a recurring theme. But if Mason Love if he's got a secret cannon that no one knows about, then we might have some fun on special teams. But I'm saying that completely in the dark because I've never seen Mason Love throw a football.
Yeah, that's going to be something that he has to do. As I said before, I make fun of kickers all the time because they're a different breed of football player. But when you have one, it is so fun and it's so comforting. When I coached high school football, I was fortunate enough to coach a player by the name of Greg Hugel. And if there's any Clemson fans out there, you know he was also known as Greg the Leg. And being able to have a high school kicker who can hit 40-plus yards field goals consistently, it was literally a cheat code. Because
it's an advantage.
If you know anything about high school kickers, not good ever. And we had one all the time. It was amazing. He was a kicker. He was the punter. He handled everything. He was awesome.
And even, like, I know you mentioned high school kickers being a completely different ball game than college kickers. But the hashtag college kickers thing is 100% true. That's why it's so important in this.
It's a thing.
It's a thing. Like, how many college games have you watched where a team's inability to hit from 40-plus yards handcuffs the offense? Then you have to be aggressive. I know we talked, that was kind of the theme of choosing your favorite NFL team in terms of, like, fourth down aggressiveness. But you can be the most conservative coach in America. You can be Mike Tomlin, right, who was one of the 4 most conservative coaches in the NFL last year. If they don't have Chris Boswell being consistently money from any point on the field, he has to be more aggressive.
Well,
because then it's more beneficial to you to have to go for it on fourth down a lot more. And depending on what your offense looks like in any given game, can be a dangerous proposition.
Elijah, I'm going to wade into some very murky waters, but I'm taking us here. The Baltimore Ravens were one of the most aggressive teams on fourth down. I think we're all familiar with what was going on with their once legendary field goal kicker. He was not good last year, whether it was on the field or off the field. We get that. But it just shows you how at one point the Baltimore Ravens had a strategy where they were like, hey, man, if we just get it over the 50-yard line, our dude can make it. And then all of a sudden, he could not make it. And they had to change their whole philosophy about being aggressive. So I think you're right in saying how just that is something that's rolling around in the coach's mind. Do we need to be a little bit more aggressive here? Maybe I shouldn't throw this pass on 3rd and long. Maybe I'll just hand the ball off, get the ball to the center of the field, and maybe Mitch Jeter or Elliott Fry or Alex Herrera can come in and bang a 40-yard field goal. But now this year, if you don't have that guy, it does change your whole game planner.
It does. And to further back up that point, I like that where you went with the Ravens example, because obviously the Justin Tucker stuff, the personal stuff aside, last year you finally saw him deteriorate as a kicker a little bit. And the Ravens team, normally known for being a lot more aggressive, last year ranked 24th in the league in fourth down aggressiveness. And a lot of that comes from if you can't trust him from 50 or even 60 yards, which he used to be really good from as well. I think he still holds the record for the longest kick in NFL history at 66 yards when he hit one that bounced off the crossbar to beat the Lions about 5 or 6 years ago. But he was once relied upon to be able to do that. You just get the ball past midfield, and you know you can at least get 3 points, and you can play it a little safer. You don't have that anymore, then you're forced to be more aggressive than you normally would be, and then you're having to play more uncharacteristically. And when you're playing more uncharacteristically, you become a lot more uncomfortable.
Yeah, that makes total sense. That makes total sense when you look at it from that angle. So I wonder how that's going to affect Shane Beamer, Mike Shula, even Clayton. Like, how does all this affect the game planning? Because what we've seen is it's all 3 work together, but we've been in a very positive space when it comes to special teams around here.
That's why KYP is always important. Know your personnel. And that's what makes a really good coaching staff, a smart coaching staff, you could say. And smart and dumb, obviously very subjective things, but I think I've already found, Preston Thorne, the dumbest topic at SEC Media Days. I've identified it. I have scoped it out. And I'm ready to talk about it because the coaches have been forced to talk about it. I'll tell you what I'm talking about when the early game continues. When it comes to finding somebody to work on your house or business, you want somebody who is proven. Somebody that you can trust in to be able to get the job done for a job that is that important. And for nearly 30 years, 3 whole decades, Midstate Roofing has proven to be the leader in roofing and waterproofing. Doing it for a long time, proven to be able to satisfy your roofing needs of whatever the facility is. It can be high rises, hospitals, manufacturing, to industrial, or just your precious beloved home. They design and install bonded systems with a protective guarantee, capital G, that will keep your operation dry and running long into the future, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And they want to remind you to protect that roof with a maintenance contract. Give them a call today, 803-356-1919, or you can just hit them up online. That'd be at midstateroofing.com. Again, our SEC Media Days coverage brought to you by Lexington Discount Homes. Lexington Discount Homes, one of South Carolina's leading retailers of manufactured homes. Go to LexingtonDiscountHomes.com to find out more. Preston, it's talking season and silly season. I feel like they're synonymous. We can get pretty silly when there's no football to talk about, but we're getting close to football being played. Would you agree with the sentiment?
Okay, talking season. We're in talking season. I believe silly season starts immediately after talking season. The period of time after talking season up until the first when practice actually starts. Then that's the season. So we're still firmly in talking season right now.
Yes. I think that if this is a Venn diagram, there is a little bit of a middle, not from a chronological timeline, but from a content.
Content for sure.
Yes. And the silliest thing, I know I was probably a little mean in the tease in talking about it being dumb.
No, it's fair. Dumb is a sign. Some things are dumb. It's okay.
I think it's pretty dumb because something got ran with, and that's the rumor that Nick Saban is willing to take a college football coaching job, to come out of retirement after everybody talking about Nick Saban retiring because of the modern state of college football, that somehow that has magically changed despite nothing changing in the craziness of the college sports landscape, and that has spread like wildfire. And the best response that anybody had to a Nick Saban question that we've gotten at SEC Media Days occurred yesterday when Kirby Smart said this.
Yeah, I called him and offered him Muschamp's job, but he was overqualified, so he wasn't interested. No, I heard all the scuttlebutt and everything about it. I almost laughed. It was like somebody needed something interesting to talk about yesterday, so they chose to go to Coach Saban to do it. You know, the game's better with him involved, and he is involved. He is passionate about it. He and I still talk and share ideas from time to time about defensive philosophies and the way to do things, and he's still watching tape and very, very involved in football. He loves it. And his brilliance, as brilliant as he is, in many ways, is around football. I mean, it's around scheme. It's around another way to do something to stay ahead of the offensive minds. And I think that's one of the elite talents he has. And he still loves that. He's still passionate about that. But make no mistake about it, the boss at home is going to make that call for him.
The boss at home is going to make the call for him, and based on, even if it's just that if you just take that last part of the clip and you apply it here on that principle, I think then, even on that alone, it'd be safe to say that Nick Saban ain't walking through that door.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening. I'm sure he might get the itch every now and then, but because if you heard what Kirby said, Kirby very specifically said he still loves watching tape and grinding film. He still loves that.
Yes.
But that's not the whole job nowadays, and so, yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That could be it. That could be a thing. It's coming down to that time where something usually happens at with Georgia at this time. So that is something that usually goes down. But yeah, this is I would love to hear everybody's answer on that. The small nugget there is that Will Muschamp not coaching this year. So I thought that was an interesting nugget. He's kind of moved his way. He was an assistant coach and he was an analyst. Now he's no longer in the game for right now. I don't know if it's a setback for a setup or what the deal is, but I thought that was interesting also.
Yeah, it certainly was. For a second, can you imagine how intimidating Nick Saban would be as a babysitter? Like, in terms of like keeping the kids in line. I mean, like young kids, even teenagers, even if he was patrolling the locker room and making sure the tomfoolery was limited.
I need a scouting report because my feeling is, I know he has some daughters, and I think he is a grandfather. I'd take the under on Nick being a tough granddad. I think he's probably as soft as cotton when it comes to those grandbabies. I need to do some scouting, but I would imagine he's probably pretty soft. That would be my thought.
Yeah, at least when it comes to his granddaughters, yes. But if he was babysitting your kids, Jenna Preston, because I am the one childless person on the show right now. I think that one might be a little different.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know, man. Some of these guys that you think are really gruff on the exterior, when they get around kids, they just turn into little puddles of goo. Maybe me being one of them. I get it. So I understand it. So we need to do the scouting on this one. But yeah, Nick's not coming back. Let's
No.
And I've said it before, and I say it again. Nick, to me, is the GOAT. I don't want to see him come back. I love the way he left his legacy. I love that he left it clean. I love that he was definitive. Please don't do that for us.
And I like how he when he left, he didn't leave on winning a national title. He left on what might have been one of his best coaching jobs
Absolutely.
ever, and turning a team that was in a lot of disarray early in that 23 season. They got beat by Texas at home pretty definitively, and they go to South Florida in that monsoon game and look worse than pedestrian. They looked bad in that game. It was an ugly game, and I still remember that video of him walking into the tunnel at Raymond James Stadium with like that quintessential, like Tommy Lee Jones-esque, I'm too old for this bleat look on his face. And then it went from that to beating Georgia in the SEC title game, wiggling their way into the college football playoff, and really, depending on how you look at that game, that Rose Bowl game, you could say that they should have beaten Michigan in that game. It was a really impressive coaching job, one of his better ones, I would even say.
And I'm not going to say that I had an inkling because nobody knew. But when you saw Nick Saban smile after winning the SEC championship, and he was very, congratulatory, and he was expressive, and he was saying all this gratitude, I was like, there might be something up here, because that wasn't, normally Nick Saban is, on to the next one, very focused. But that whole year, he was very much appreciative, and there was like a kind of gentler side that we saw of Nick that year. So maybe we should have saw some clues coming.
Yeah. Maybe we should have. In hindsight, yeah, that might have been there, because he's absolutely one of those. And Kirby Smart, obviously, from the Nick Saban coaching tree. And Jay and I have kind of alluded to this a lot when talking about playoff/bowl games, or the bowl games are playoff games, where I think it was when they beat Michigan in the Orange Bowl, and the players are wanting to toss around the Orange Bowl, or the oranges and the trophy and do all that. And Kirby Smart says, no, this is... But we still have work to do. And
right.
Nick Saban was that quintessential, no, we can't celebrate this too much because there's still a lot of work to do. And I guess whenever he decides to enjoy a win a little bit, that we should probably have seen it coming, that there is some change.
That could have been something there could have been a little bit of a tell.
Yeah, a little bit of one. But Nick Saban retired. He's not coming back. We got a little silly this week when it comes to talking about a possible return. It spread like wildfire here in Atlanta, but I'm glad we can kind of squash this right now. We'll go take a break. When we come back, we'll continue 50-yarder for your life, and there's a member of the media here that firmly believes that Lenore Sellers, not just the best quarterback in the SEC, but the best quarterback in America. We'll discuss when the early game continues. I'm glad. Here at SEC Media Days Live in Atlanta, brought to you by Lawyer Lisa. Need to talk estate planning, elder law, elder care, or probate? Call Lawyer Lisa, 803-563-5163, or go to lawyerlisa.com. Jen, Preston, who do you think Lawyer Lisa would trust with her life on the line to make a kick from 50 yards? That was a former Gamecock.
I got the Peach Bowl guy.
I think there's an obvious answer, but I think there's an obvious answer.
I hope it's an obvious
I
answer.
hope it's an obvious answer. Absolutely.
Oh, man, yeah, I hope so. I think she would lean Josh Brown. I don't know what's telling me that.
I think that's a lean. I think that's a lean.
Yeah.
If not, I'm just going to replay Barnhart. Okay, yeah. Venables.
It could cause some problems if she had if she texted in the text line, the Firehouse Subs text line, and said, you know what, I think I'm taking Elliott Fry. Might be a point of contention in the household.
Yeah, a little bit.
It just might. Still tallying some up right now, and we did get one text earlier said the Parker White disrespect is crazy, and you ask and you shall receive. He has currently, since he texted that, has picked up a couple of more votes. He is now in third. We still have a tie for first though. Ryan Suckup and Elliott Fry at 10.
Parker White was really good. Obviously, he was really good. He was very fun to watch. Here's what I would say. I don't know if there's an index that we can come up for this, but there needs to be some sort of handicap for the kickers who kicked under Will Muschamp, because Will Muschamp had a penchant for kicking meaningless 50-yard field goals, and it'd be 56-yard field goals with no purpose, and they would end up missing them, and it would just mess everything up. So I don't know if there's any way that we can measure that, but anybody who kicked under Muschamp kicked a lot of meaningless, long field goals for no particular reason.
I want to go back and go through some game logs when I have the time. I want to go back through some game logs and count the amount of pointless 50-yarders kicked in that time frame. And maybe if I can get some of my friends that are a lot better at the computer science thing to crunch some data and give me maybe some have a computer do this for me to do what the percentage is for everybody across the country, and then compare it to what the Muschamp era was in terms of pointless 50-yarders. I think the hypothesis is strong that South Carolina led the country in that time.
Yeah, that was Champ's thing. If you like pointless 50-yarders, Champ was your guy.
That was that's our hypothesis. But there's some around here who are hypothesizing a pretty big year from Lenora Sellers, not just in our town of Columbia, in our state of South Carolina, but here at SEC Media Days as well. And Brooks Austin, someone who has his own media entity, and also with SI Now covering Georgia, but he covers all of college football, watches a ton of tape, made a video, about 30-minute video, where he thinks Lenora Sellers is the best quarterback, not just in the SEC, but in the country. Maybe invoking some La Heisman hype around here. Maybe. Jen, clip 45 on today's list. La Heisman is my favorite La nickname for Lenora Sellers. Lenora Sellers gave his favorite La nicknames when he was here in Atlanta.
Anything with LA in front of it, like any word you want to put behind LA, that's what people do. It's the goggles.
Have you seen the Heisman?
Yeah, I have. This is a good one too.
Any others?
What's the supercalifragilistic thing? I've seen that, like, love that. I've seen the Heisman. I've seen, for Media Day, I see like La Pilot, La Flight, La Media Day, all this stuff, so.
That's a lot of nicknames.
I like Elijah.
Ooh, that's good. Oh, that's good. Anytime I have a positive Lenora Sellers take, which is most of them,
Yes.
they will be Elijah takes.
I'm just saying.
That's good. That's good. Every time I wear goggles, I think that's what my persona will bleed into. But there's a lot of La hype here at La Media Days, and that one from somebody who like Brooks, who crunches a ton of tape and studies it really well. To say that he's the best quarterback in the nation is some pretty big hype. Preston, you hear that take right there. Do you think he's far off?
Listen, I've been on this hype train for a long time, so I get it. I would just want to make sure, I would want to back my eyes up with some numbers and with somebody who's grinded film, because I have not grinded film. I've essentially just watched it with garnet goggles. So I've only watched Lenoris with La goggles on.
LaGarnet goggles.
LaGarnet goggles, right? So I've only seen that, and so I would love to hear it's confirmation for me when I hear some of these national pundits come over to our side and confirm what we've been saying for at least a year and a half now.
Yeah, and look, the last 6 weeks of last year proved a lot. It proved a couple of things. One, Lenoris can beat you through the air, like with his arm, right? There, you see with running quarterbacks that are really good with their legs, there's this notion that is rather lazy that they're not good passing quarterbacks, right? For some reason, a lot of football media or the football public kind of wants to put you in a box of running quarterback or pocket quarterback and that you can't be both. And Lenoris dispelled that in the Missouri game by dropping, 327 yards, I believe it was, and engineering those drives with really good passes in methodical drives where he's making plays in the pocket. And then he showed you what he can do with his legs, whether it's making B.J. Mays outlined in chalk against Texas A&M in that game by just running him over, and then doing what he did in the Clemson game. He proved that he has a lot of those skills that as a quarterback you just can't teach. I think that's one of the reasons why NFL scouts are so high on him. But in terms of what his impact is on the offense, if you have a quarterback that is making plays when the offensive line's not playing very well, almost offensive line proof, or if he's still making plays happen and receivers or running backs maybe aren't making plays, that one-man game changer makes you more valuable than almost anybody else in the sport.
Elijah, watch how the show comes together. You ready for this?
Yes.
Lamar.
Ooh, I see where you're going.
See where I'm going with this?
Yes.
Because there is this misconception about Lamar Jackson that he just uses his legs. In reality, when you watch his film from college, playing under Bobby Petrino, and you watch his film from the NFL, he's as much of a skilled pocket passer as almost anybody else in those leagues. And it was a misconception coming out of school just because he can run that people think those things are mutually exclusive, and they're not. Mm-hmm. The issue is what I sometimes find with Lamar is that he wants to prove to everybody that he's a pocket passer, and sometimes that hinders him when you're just like, hey, Lamar, use those things that God gave you. And so so what I wonder is, coming into this year, will Lenoris fall into that situation where he's trying to prove to everybody that he's such a good quarterback and forget that I also have these two jets that I can use. That's something that I am a little bit nervous about. And we saw shades of that in the Citrus Bowl, but I don't know if that carries over into this year.
Right. And here's how I kind of look at it. His arm makes him one of the best quarterbacks in the country. The legs are a separator. Mm-hmm. Like that's what puts you in a completely different tier, a completely different classification. And Lamar Jackson's really, in terms of public perception, I believe probably the best parallel you can draw, because when people talk about Lamar, they talk about the athleticism. They don't talk about him being one of the most accurate downfield passers in the NFL, mm-hmm. which he has been. If you look at a lot of those underlying numbers, a lot of the next-gen stuff where they kind of break down what it is when the ball travels 20-plus yards in the air, there's not many more, if any, more accurate quarterbacks than Lamar Jackson, and that's not even taking the arm strength into account. And I think Lenoris might end up falling into that same perception just because he is such a dynamic playmaker.
Yeah, and like I said, the only thing I just hope it doesn't get into his head, like I think it sometimes gets into Lamar's head about, I have to prove to people that I'm a pocket passer. I have to prove to them that I can do this. We know you can do it, and we appreciate it, but hey, if it's an opportunity to run, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and take that opportunity.
Absolutely, and I believe he'll toe that line really well, because Lenoris is a winner. And coming up next to round out today's early game, we'll give you our winners of today's show. That's next. all of our sponsors here for our coverage at SEC Media Days. Lawyer Lisa, Game Day Men's Health, Lexington Discount Homes, and CHW Cabinetry. Thanks to them for helping us get to experience SEC Media Days and bring the action here back home to you. They're winners. They are winners of every show while we're here in Atlanta. But each specific show has specific winners. And now it's time to channel our inner Mike Singletary and declare some winners. Preston, who are your winners from today's show?
I told you I was a truther at the beginning of the show. I'm going to give honor, glory, homage to our guy, Alex Herrera,
Yes.
who many people at this time last year, we were trying to figure out, oh, my God, how are we going to replace Mitch Jeter? He was almost perfect for us. We're not going to have a field goal kicker. Alex Herrera is a fifth-year kid. Why hasn't he won this position yet? We're never going to have a kicking game. And our guy, Alex Herrera, with the help of the staff, which I think is something important for us to think about this year, was phenomenal last year. Yes, I know he missed the LSU kick. Yes, he missed Alabama. Those are two major kicks. I get it. But for the rest of the season, he was absolutely phenomenal and reliable, and as reliable as any kicker we've had in Carolina history. Yeah,
especially you had the stat earlier that he was money from between 40 and 47 yards.
40, yes, very specific statistic because the LSU kick was 48 yards, so we have to just bring it down a little bit. From 40 to 47 yards, absolutely money throughout the season, and he was good on anything below that also.
I've got a winning number for you today, Preston Thorne. Technically, they're two numbers, but it represents one stat: 6 and 5. That is Kalen DeBoer's record, straight up, not against the spread, straight up, when he was a Vegas favorite on the road in conference games since taking the Washington job. Why is that significant, you may ask? And if you missed it in the first hour of the show, highly recommend going back and listening to the full breakdown on our YouTube page, because Alabama comes to South Carolina this year in October. And usually when Alabama comes to South Carolina, they're favorites. Sometimes it's by a touchdown. Sometimes it's more than that. And we're hoping here in Columbia that it's going to be less than that, because that means South Carolina's having a really good season. But if Alabama comes in that game playing really well, and they're top 5, and they're a 7.5, 8.5 or more point favorite, I think you can trust that Kalen DeBoer's team can slip up, because there has been precedent on that in the past. More specifically, he has lost games as a favorite on the road against conference opponents at the Power 4 level. 14.5 points. He was a favorite at Arizona State in 2022. They lost that game. An 18.5 point favorite on the road while he was at Washington. Won that game by only 3. 27.5 point favorites. I believe that one might have been against Arizona. On the road, they won, but only by 9. And then, of course, last year, the 23.5 point favorites they were against Vanderbilt. We know how that game went. And they were 13.5 point favorites on the road to Oklahoma. We all definitely know how that game went, because that kept them out of the college football playoff. All that to be said, that if Alabama comes into Willie B, expected to win, that might be where they're most vulnerable.
I like it, Elijah. I like it because that's something that we need to look into. Elijah, I missed the statistic, and I think I have another number for you.
Yes.
And I know you love numbers.
I love numbers.
341.2. Do you have any idea what that number what that number is?
341.2. It's an average of sorts.
Well, I'd say it's a rating.
A rating.
Yes.
Okay, now you've got my attention. You have my attention.
341.2 is the QB rating of Kai Kroger for his career.
Oh my God. Oh yes, yes. And you know what? I'm not even going to put the small, like when I put together my quarterback spreadsheet before every season. I'll put asterisks next to names that denote small sample sizes. This is asterisk free. I'm not even going to denote the small sample size. This is the way it will be enshrined forever with 0 asterisks.
Again, I have no idea how to calculate quarterback rating, but I think 341.2 is good. I think.
Yeah, I think it breaks the scale. I am sure that's enough to make a computer malfunction.
I think that needs to go on his resume.
Yeah, put it on his resume. Put it at the top.
Should.
Yes.
Top of my
honestly,
resume.
When the NFL draft happened, that's what he should have had on a like a laminated sheet sent out to all 32 NFL teams. Hey, not only can I, kick the air out of this football, buddy, I can I can do a lot of damage with my arm too.
And if you remember the Citrus Bowl, our guy Boogie, it hit his hands and he dropped it. So that might have even increased the QB rating, because he might have had another touchdown to add. I think he threw 3 for his career, but that might have been another one. That could have been 4 possible touchdowns for Kai Kroger in his career.
We've alluded to expected completion percentage that accounts for drops. We can account for expected quarterback rating as well, making that number a little harder. Thank you all, or higher, yeah. Whoa, words, whatever. Thank you all for tuning in. Thanks to Preston, Jen, all of our sponsors, CHW Cabinetry, Lexington Discount Homes, Game Day Men's Health, Lawyer Lisa. We'll see you again, same time, same place.
See you tomorrow.